All right. Bismillah. Let's see if we are live. All right, people. Let's do an audio check. Check that the sound is coming through fine. I should have actually amended that. Let's see. Is that better? Right. So, audio is good. Bismillah. Inna alhamdulillah wa kafah. والصلاة والسلام على رسوله المصطفى وعلى عباده الذين ارتضى ومن بهداهم اهتدى وبآثار أهل المدينة اقتفى وبعد فسلام الله على القوم أهلا وسهلا ومرحبا. All right, people, welcome. Right, who have we got with us? So let's take a sip. I had to make myself there is just something about these coffees. These are the Tassimo ones. Not that I'm advertising them, but I have to say, kya baat hai, kya baat hai. So, right, let me see who we have. Nora, ahlan wa sahlan. Nora from Florida, as always. Un placer. Muchas gracias. Right, we've got Scorpio, ahlan wa sahlan. Alaikum assalam. Shamrose. Right, how are you? Allah be praised. Allah be praised. Shukran. Clear. Welcome. Assalamu alaikum. Right. Ayub al Maliki. Wow. Yeah. I could see Mirza Saab. Not Mirza, Mirza Ghalib, Asadullah Khan Ghalib, saying it's been a while. It has. And I think that's why part of why I wanted to come on as well. I feel, yeah, it's something not only do I find it very meaningful, but also enjoy it as well. So it's good. It's good and it's very wholesome to be able to come live. Yeah, things have just been going on. Make dua, shukran, Sayyid In'am. Right. Pray for Allah. May Allah keep things easy and bless you, Sayyid In'am. Right, Robin. Oh, Robin. It's been quite a while. Assalamu alaikum. Right, there you go. Indeed. I think maybe even has it been a few years since you've logged on to the live stream shows. That Allah bless you. Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, make dua. It is still, kind of tough, the whole thing with my mom that's happening, but I guess it's in many ways these things, they remind us of life, of almost the disillusionment of life, what should be. Yeah, its frailty, its fragility. Allah saying, "I'lamu annama al-hayat ad-dunya la'ibun wa lahu." That know that this life, it's a sport. It's a sport. La'ib. And wallahu, and it's a distraction. Distractions can be fun. Sports can be entertaining. They can be an immersive experience and rewarding. People, they take a lot of meaning from sports. But that's what it is ultimately. That what is the reality of this life? So yeah, these things they remind us. I wanted to take a look at. I'm going to bring up. I'm going right. Where's it gone? Oh, they slightly. You know that you you log into a platform and they've changed some of the hmm, some of the settings, and you're like, well, right. I wanted to speak about two key things. Right. One was the the theme that our past does not define us. I feel this is incredibly important because so many of us are prisoners to our past. And our past is an important part of us, an undeniable element in the equation, a crucial ingredient in the outcome. But it is not what defines us. We are much greater than the sum of our past. Okay. So there's that I wanted to touch upon as a reminder. And also, um, I'd been the I guess remotely tying into that the story of the Israelites, and this is something I was actually speaking to with a Patreon member. We in our one-to-one discussions, and it was we ended up speaking about the story of sacrificing the cow and the symbolism, and it was a very ya salam. So I think there was a question as well that had been shared. I'll try and see if it's still there. I did say I wanted to take a look at these two topics of the past does not define us, and also uh, symbolism regarding sacrificing the cow with the Israelites in Surah Al-Baqarah. So those are two things. And I will. Somebody saying it was me, Mufti. Well, the magic powers, Putin's conspiracy. Yeah, it was just weird because, to be fair, I don't know. Technology, huh? Technology. So, right, let's move forward, people. Let's take a look. I see Saracen had a super chat, did he? Let me go back, take a look. Right, Azarati, much love for the super sticker. Allah keep you blessed. If it was anything but a distraction, Mufti, we would be in a state of panic. Allah, Allah. Guys, speaking of our past, speaking of panic, speaking of how we react to things. This is an amazing, beautiful quote by Hafiz that I wish I could show you when you are lonely or in darkness or in a state of anxiety. This is relating to that. Um, the astonishing light of your own being. That often what we have within us is more than enough to get us to where we are trying to go. And speaking of this theme of the past, that I've never met a strong person or even a, you see, even a person who's made a significant change, a change for the better, at whether it's at a, within a microcosm or a macrocosm. It is these people, they do not exist without a difficult past. I think I've also found the question, but before we do, why not throw in some sha'iri? Or I tell you what, let's go to the Icy Saracen super chat. Icy Saracen, shukran, much love for the super chat. I'm at work, so I'm throwing in my 2 cents. All right, there you go. Throw them in, throw them in. What's your views on Andrew Tate's conversion? Do you think Islam is now becoming a haven for those who are frustrated with culture war, the manosphere? I'm not sure I've come across that term. The manosphere. What are my thoughts on Andrew Tate's conversion to Islam? You see, faith is for each and all, and it is a person's personal journey. It is ultimately a road to God, and it's not really for anyone to it's not anyone's place to really even have something to say about it in that sense. It's a person's personal journey. That's as far as Iman and faith is concerned. So anybody and everybody is welcome to the caravan of faith, and specifically or particularly the caravan of Islam. So whoever embraces the faith, ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban, and you know, may Allah soften and guide their hearts and allow them to be a beacon of light for others as well. So that goes without saying. That would also apply to Andrew Tate or anyone that embraces Islam. Yeah. I mean, that said, right. So Andrew Tate is obviously a very controversial, personality. Absolutely adored and by some, and loathed and hated by others. To me, you see, there's things about him that obviously I can understand how they trigger people, and there's things about him that I feel he's making a valid point on certain things he's saying. Obviously, his whole character is provocative in and of itself, but he unquestionably is a marketing genius. The guy is, I think anybody that undermines his genius is, I mean, whether you do or not, it's irrelevant, because he is a marketing genius. He's a bit, in some ways, in that respect, a bit like how Shah Rukh Khan in the Bollywood thing it wasn't just his acting, but he was a marketing genius. What he did and the contracts he tied himself into, and how he introduced them into the whole Bollywood sphere. I suppose maybe many people ain't aware of that, but that was his actual genius. It wasn't just his acting. But similarly, or in that parallel, what Andrew Tate has done is he's just projected himself onto the world and then beat this algorithm in the sense that he is everywhere. I do agree with certain things that he states about. You see, he is highlighting this, what he refers to as the matrix, or the powers that be. It is true that they do not want men to be unruly. You see, I feel that this point of his, I don't know whether people get it or not, but I feel he's making a valid point here, that he's stating that, because what he's trying to hype up is the manliness of men, but he's also stating that there's a reason why people don't want you to be very manly, or be very drawn towards these ideals, that men have this thing where they should be protectors, and they should, because it's not, these words are nice words, nobody has a problem with these words, that men should be protectors or providers, or but it's that this archetype is nested in other things, which, even if you're not saying it, but they are the subtext. So you see, for men to be, for example, the protectors, they need to be, there needs to be aggression. They need to carry aggression within them. Even if, in the words of Jordan Peterson, they don't exercise it, but they need to have it. They need to have the potentiality to be dangerous. They need to, and these things, it is true that, and I do feel this was the reason he was cancelled. I don't agree with the cancellation of cancelling, or deplatforming Andrew Tate. And I do feel that the reason he was cancelled was not because of misogyny and stuff like this. I feel that people who believe that are incredibly naive. I mean, in my perspective, I feel they've just taken a naive, lower, the kind of lower fruits that are hanging to them, and they think, the world cares. Yeah, the world does not. These conglomerates and the powers that run these institutions, they do not care about him calling women hoes or doing things like this, or they don't care. Rap music is full of this. The internet is full of these things. They genuinely do not care about this stuff, although that is perhaps the pretext that they presented in deplatforming him, in saying that the reason that they're deplatforming is because he's misogynistic. And maybe he's racist, or maybe he's homophobic, or maybe he's these things. I don't think these were they don't, this is my opinion, I could be wrong. I don't think they honestly could care. And if they do care about that, that's potentially, that would not be above 1 to 2% of the reason why they did this. The reason is that he's dangerous. He's not dangerous for the reasons that people think he's dangerous. Like, people think he's dangerous because he's making people misogynistic. Sure, he may be, but that's not the reason why he's dangerous to those people, to the powers. He's dangerous because if he stirs this spirit of this kind of this audacious, dangerous man, things could easily lose control. Like, it does, like, let's say, honestly, it would take, let's say you had just 5,000 people, 5,000 men in a country that became incredibly unruly. Just 5,000. That is enough to potentially create chaos. You see, danger always comes from men. There's no mistake about that. I mean, for the most part, people who will people who will fight, who will kill, who will be involved in serious crime, who will run all kinds of criminal syndicates, all these people will be men. People who rise with rebellions, people who will protest dangerously, people who will overthrow governments. These people are always, for the most part, are always men. So it is in the interest of kind of passivity and this of keeping things, maintaining the order, that men more and more gradually remain, that they become more and more emasculated. That is more a politics of power. because you don't want, like, let's be honest, you don't want men, if you're ruling places or you're that wealthy, to be of that nature, because that's a huge problem. Because people like that, you can't control them, and if you do control them, you just have to throw them in prisons, and you have to just, and everything. It's not just prisons, but the whole, like I said, a few thousand men like that are enough to cause chaos in an entire country of millions and millions of people. That's all it would take. So what Andrew Tate was doing was he was bringing a spark to that spirit. That's very dangerous for the powers that be. This is why countries like China agreed to deplatform him. Do you really think TikTok cares what Facebook dictates to it? No. And they could not care about misogyny or about these other things, but it's that they don't want that happening in China. They don't want people kind of rising with this spirit of, but with just a tough spirit of rebelliousness, because it's always a problem. You see, it is right throughout human history and existence that the indomitable spirit is a problem for the powers that be. So that's my summary of Andrew Tate. As to him becoming Muslim, look, he's at a stage where, look, a great percentage of the world hate him, and they call him misogynistic, and he's over sexualized, and he's all these kind of things. So him jumping onto the Islam, caravan at this stage, I don't, faith is open for all. Nobody can say yes or no to that. But is that a good thing for Islam overall? Time will tell. Not every person who comes to Islam does Islam good. Many people have done Islam a lot of harm as well. So when a person has that reputation of being misogynistic and being this, and then he jumps to Islam, will such a person just go on to use Islam to justify that, let's say, misogyny and that kind of talk and that kind of stuff? And thereby, and Islam already has that reputation amongst many people, unfortunately, wrongfully, but it has that reputation. So is this something to jump up and down and celebrate? I don't know about celebrating it in that sense. I wouldn't be jumping up and down in that kind of celebratory manner. But to me, it would be like, okay, the faith is for everyone, but is there going to be some good out of this, or is this going to do Islam a lot of harm? Time will tell, and I guess we're just ambivalent about it. But yeah, I know a lot of people were getting really excited, saying, "Oh my God, Andrew Tate's become Muslim." I mean, the thing is, many of these people themselves will be chucking him out of Islam, given a few, maybe 12 months. I don't know if you've seen his clip. There's a clip of him where he's sitting with his brother Christian, and they're at some cafe or something, and he's asking Christian to pay because he says he's forgotten his wallet, and they're having this thing that he says, well, why should I pay? You always make me pay. And he says, because I am because I am I am the caliph. He says, I am the caliph of Tatistan, and I am now a Muslim, and you are, he says, do you embrace Islam? He's saying this to his brother in the recording. And he says, no. And he says, well, then, you live under my caliphate in Tatistan, and you must therefore pay the jizya. You have to pay me a tax as a non-Muslim infidel living under my... So I get it. He's joking. I mean, but a lot more of this is probably going to come. So all these people that are going on, you see... Yeah, I think another problem is we as Muslims are often, we we're very insecure about our faith, so we need people, like, we love it when people embrace and I get that, that is amazing, absolutely, that people embrace the faith, but sometimes it's more as a members club that we just want to show off. Oh my god, this guy's a Muslim now. So I would say, look, his faith is between him and God. We wish him the best. We pray that maybe Islam can rectify certain, these issues that this baggage he was carrying, and may he be a light for other people. May Allah bless him to be able to do that and protect us from any harm that may be coming this way as a consequence as well, because people forget that as well. There may be not everybody who comes to Islam does it well. Many people have brought Islam a lot of harm. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. Right, so that's my thoughts on Andrew Tate and becoming Muslim. His podcast, I haven't I watched a few of his um the caliph from Tatistan. Yeah, but look, I want to be careful. I want to be very clear here as well, and I think this can be a separate point, because look, Hassan, we have to remember, a lot of women hate Tate because he turned little simps into men who don't chase women and give them validation. They now care about body count and what traditional. Right. Okay. But we have to look. I've said this before previously, that in the West, there is unfortunately a culture war that is pitting men against women. And this should never be the case. Okay, never. Men and women, we complement one another. It is the kind of the energy that is brought by both men and women. It synergizes into an unfathomable and unbelievable majestic force, which is a blessing from Allah. Now, along the way, we can find sometimes toxic elements, and we can find toxic elements in both. We can find it in women. We can find this, that the person in the question said, that people, but we find it in men as well. Men are abusive. Men treat also, there will be some men that will treat women like trash, and there will be some women that will treat men like trash. But what we cannot be a party to this. Okay, do not allow even sometimes, okay, joking aside, things and I get it. Sometimes people make certain things, and they may, even if they have valid points in some things, but don't allow yourself to ever be to be brought into this kind of culture war between the genders, in saying, well, men are all like this or women are all like this. That is not the way of Islam. Okay, so it is not and we have to remember, this is important. Muslim, a lot of this that people say about sometimes women in the West and all, Muslim women are still, they still have a considerable amount of these, of that kind of cultural ethic and the sensitivities that people, for example, are complaining about when it comes to other women. That Muslim women are often not like, I don't mean there will never be any people, but they're still not like that. So when people are saying, oh, women, for example, oh, they don't, they let's say they refuse to do anything at home, or they refuse. This often isn't the case with Muslims cultures. Sure, there may be some discussion, but it isn't as the way what you may be finding this problem in some of society at large. So don't mistake the equation. As Muslims, a lot of these things that are problems are not actually problems yet within the Muslim communities to that scale anyway. They're not. So don't be kind of fighting that battle, but over here, where it's not even a battle, it's not even a thing. I hope that makes some sense. Right. Let me. How would you justify Quran 33 when it says that no man can ever marry the wives of the Prophet after him? How would this be fair on Aisha that she could never marry after the Prophet? Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Yeah, now, right. So why could. Now, there were a number of things that were being said here. First of all, the wives of the Prophet themselves stated that they would never want to marry anyone else. And there was a discussion where the Prophet actually says, in fact, the Quran says, whosoever, if they want this, they can take this, they can go, or they can be with the messenger. And this is what this mission entails. And that is that path. And they say, and in fact, the hadith, and it's in Bukhari, that Aisha is amongst them as well. Ikhtarnak, we choose you and this path. So now the question isn't that this was being done against their will; they actually chose this. So your question could be reframed, or part of it, in the sense that, well, why was this even put there? And a number of things that. One, the position of the Prophet, in a way, was like symbolically like the father of this ummah. And in a hadith, the Prophet said, "Innama ana lakum bi manzilatil walid." I am in that position of like a father to you all. And I will look out and teach you through everything, just as a father does. But ana bi manzilatil walid, I am on that maqam for you. And the wives of the Prophet are the mothers of the believers. So Ummahat al-Mu'mineen is their title, or Ummul Mu'mineen. And so that symbolic motherhood that they have was one key element in the equation, that the mothers do not then marry their children. That, it doesn't. And that was the path of being the wives of the Prophet that they chose. And one could argue that there were other elements that certain people may use to degrade and to attack the Islam and the Prophet, and this circumvents all of that as well, because there were certain people who had made certain claims during this was before that, this is how we would do, and then we will, if the Prophet died, we would do this to his women, we would marry them like that, and then we would treat them in this way and do that, and so on. And so I guess maybe an argument could be made that cautionary steps were taken to protect them as well. And their honor and the honor of the deen, by extension, the honor of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But this was not something done there are many women throughout history who choose this path that often, I mean, marriage is overrated, as people would say, but there's many women that choose this path of not wanting to marry, either from the get-go or after a particular person, even some men. But you see that it's not a novel concept. So yeah, so it's not that it was held against them, but it was a choice that was presented and they chose it. Right. Okay. What's this? Are we still talking about the it is women want men who are rich, strong, and ambitious, but not toxic or poisonous. So, yeah, that's the main thing. Right. It is true that, look, generally speaking, people would believe it's true, definitely, that men generally, men are not generally good looking. This is not the appeal of men, generally speaking. I mean, they're good looking maybe in a different context, like it's what they represent. and there's a personality about them. There's a presence, there's an aura, a vibe, an energy. But it's not necessarily just the visual aesthetics in a vacuum. Whereas men to women can just see women just visually as well. Obviously, other things matter as well, but that is true. And this is, it's a psych. This is known scientifically. I mean, I know people today try to maybe not they don't like discussing these things in science, but it's true. If you discuss it, this is how the brains do operate. So yeah, and men, it is true that being all these things is amazing. Being successful, having a story about you, having these things are definitely important, and do them. But it's also, there's something about this attitude that's really needs to be zeroed in on. Like, you need to hone in on this point of attitude. It is not, when you be these things, when you become, if a person is on this path to becoming successful, more power to them, and they should, definitely should, just to see what it will make of them. But not in this sense where you see these clips made sometimes. I don't know why, but they appear to be made like in India a lot. And they've got this Sigma male. And the Sigma, I'd never heard of what this Sigma thing was until I saw these clips pop up everywhere on Instagram. And so the Sigma is the guy, he'll he'll say something like, Sigma's legends only focus on their dreams, and he'll turn and he'll walk off, and the music will come on. He's this kind of lone wolf character. And you see, it's not the attitude should not be to shun the world, or F the world, or the world can go to hell. This should not be the attitude. There was this, speaking of that Sigma, there was this clip. I don't know what the clip was taken from, but it was some Indian, I don't know whether it's a drama or what, but there's this woman there who's showing this attitude to this copper, and the inspector's there, and then she's, I don't know, it's just cut straight into this. They're having this exchange, and she says, "You know what? I've had enough." She says, "Do me a favor, just kill me. Kill me, I've had enough." She says, "Do me this one favor, kill me." And the copper just pulls out a gun and shoots her. And then it says, "Legends don't ask questions later. They shoot first. Sigma male." I almost fell off my chair laughing. I was not expecting. Oh, God. Okay, so this is not what it's about. Okay. There's I've spoken of very highly Maulana Dr. Suleiman Misbahi Saab. And he has this lecture, I mean, it's many, but in one, he's speaking of the Prophet's guidance and the Sahaba after him. And he says, and I guess he's addressing men, but it doesn't have to be specific to men, but he's addressing men, but it ties in here perfectly. He says, "Gharon ko palo." See, raise households, provide for households. Providing for your own household, that's a given. Yeah, that doesn't even count. I mean, of course it counts, but you're going to do that. Providing for yourself, I mean, that even an animal is going to fend for itself. Saying, well, okay, these are my dependents, I'm going to take care of them. Mammals do that. Sure. But an insan is somebody who can sustain many households, many people. He said this whilst narrating the stories of of Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, that when he passed, a particular old blind lady afterwards, she came and said, I don't know, she said, what's happened? She said that there was this man who would come every evening or every other evening and leave with me like a certain portion of food. And he's, he would do this consistently, but he stopped doing it. And where is he? What's happened? And that was Abu Bakr. He'd passed away, radiallahu anh. This is what he meant, garon ko palo. That, like that. Let there be countless, let there be many things that in secret, don't make Instagram videos about them, where you are making a difference. The hadith says that you give in a way that what the right hand gives, the left hand is unaware of. For that, be successful, be rich, have all these stories, do all these things that garon ko palo, like sustain people out there. Allah will put barakah in what you have, not for this contemptuous outlook, like, get away from me, I'm a legend, that's just arrogance. That's just, don't, if you're going to do it, don't do it for that. Yeah, so, right, now, let's take a look at some poems. There were some poems I'd seen. Speaking of insan, huh? Agar magar aur kaash mein hoon, filhal mein apni hi talash mein hoon. Wow. Look at that. How people are caught up. We live in our imagination. Agar magar aur kaash mein hoon. If, but, if only. Allah, lastu biraji'in ma fata minni. La bilahfa wala layta wala law anni. I can't bring back my life because I these things, if only, what if, it never changes anything, but we stay. Agar magar aur kaash mein hoon, filhal mein apni hi talash mein hoon. That yet I'm still to find myself. As Mir says, bekhudi le gayi kahan humko. Allah. बेखुदी ले गई कहां हमको, देर से है इंतजार अपना. That this self, like, I've lost myself. Whereas this, I don't know, for so long I've been waiting to find myself again. These poets have a way with words. And this ties in very beautifully with what we were saying. And I guess this as well symbolically. तुम ज़माने के राह से आए, वरना सीधा था रास्ता दिल का. This, I guess, is going back to what life is about fundamentally. That, you you took the route of the world, like you took a worldly route, you took a scenic route, if you like, or you listened to what the world dictated to you. Otherwise, the road to the heart was just straight. But sometimes we have to, sometimes lose ourselves as well a bit. Yeah, chalta hai. We have to, I guess it's insan. There's nothing, look, sometimes we will make mistakes as well. It's okay. It's all part of the journey. Sometimes we have to lose ourselves only to find ourselves again. Kya baat hai, huh? Kya baat. So, right, let me take a look at, we've got some super chats. All right, what's going on? Okay, here it is. Shallow waters. Shallow waters. Yaar, Macchiato, huh? Macchiato. With rise of modern science, some young people like myself, rather young, young man, young, can't see the supernatural happen. How do we find balance with orthodoxy? After seeing the JP debacle, I'm scared of the pure metaphorical route. What's the JP Jordan Peterson debacle? I don't know what that was. And I don't know what his debacle thing was. But right, it's not this is not about metaphor. It's much deeper than that. It's there are many things that are like we ourselves inhabit the realm, a realm that is deeply intertwined with symbolism, with constructs, psychosocial constructs, with metaphors in that sense, but metaphorical truths. We find ourselves often in a world of narratives. So this narratival realm is inescapable for human beings. We're just not aware of it sometimes, that's all. But it doesn't mean that we are so, and this is what Wittgenstein was often trying to explain when he was saying that, you know, if a lion could speak English or if a dog could speak English, you still couldn't understand it. And he didn't mean because of the language, but because we as human beings inhabit a realm of the psyche. Like we live more in our minds than we possibly do in the real world. So that, and by mind, I don't just mean the past, present, and future, although that, I mean, the past and the future, but that too. But we also inhabit like psychosocial realms that don't actually exist tangibly or palpably. So it's not as easy as just saying they are metaphors, because people assume by metaphor what you mean is something not literal. So I say, oh, he's a lion in bravery. You know, this is a metaphor. That's not what is meant here. Here we're talking about things that are very real, very real. Money is one of those things. As an example, now you could say, well, money is real because of the paper, but is it? Who told you? Just because of the in fact, it's not. Money for the most part is non-material. It's actually a construct. But many things like that, the state, countries, laws, values, rights, freedoms, ambitions, careers, relationships, are these things, do any of these things palpably exist? They exist in our minds. And then we thereby see them in the world. You see, we project onto the world what exists in our mind. They don't actually exist, these things, but that's not to mean that they are false. You see, because this is where that gross oversimplification of saying, oh, it's not a metaphor. These things are not metaphors. These things are psychosocial constructs. There's a big difference in saying, so, because when you say metaphor, it's juxtaposed with literal truth. Psychosocial construct is not juxtaposed with that. So it's important we understand these things. Right. Okay. Yeah. So saying myths are part of myths. In other words, are narratives. So the broader, umbrella term would be. I would prefer to just speak under the broader umbrella term of narratives, because when you say myth, the problem with myth is it carries more than one meaning. So it carries a meaning of something that is clearly known to be unreal in mythology. That's not what we're talking about here, although that could also be part of the discourse, but it's not. We're talking about psychosocial constructs, therefore, narratival truths. Okay. जो गुजारी ना जा सकी हमसे हमने वो जिंदगी गुजारी है क्या बात है honestly Hazrat John Elia. Right, so okay, let's move on to I want to cover this some verses of the Quran speaking of why our past does not define us, just this reminder. Okay, because so many of us are all too often victimized by our own story. You see, we have a choice to be the victim or the victor. Now, you can, because everybody things happen to them in their past, and everybody, you could wish that, oh, if only this was different, if only that had happened differently. But how do you know if that had happened differently, you today may not be the person you are? A long time ago, I watched this movie, Butterfly Effect, the first part, and it was amazing because it's the whole thing about it is he goes back to change one thing, but when he changes it, the butterfly effect ramification, that when he's brought back to the present, something else has changed now. He tries to save somebody from a dangerous accident, but realizes such and such person got injured even worse. And every time he keeps going back, the turnout of events play out undesirably. And so it's the greater lesson is that well, you see, we find ourselves on this path. And even if there are difficulties in it, and even if there's been a horrible past, or it's been tumultuous, or it's been, turbulent, maybe, you see, you have been through that and you are here for a reason. And you may say, well, what kind of reason is that? What could I get out of having suffered such a tragedy, was in a terrible accident, or had some atrocity committed against me? And what could I get out of that? Well, maybe, you see, you didn't just make it this far to only come this far. Maybe you are to extend and shine a light of hope for other people. Maybe somebody who'd been through something similar, worse, or maybe less than you. Maybe they were about to give up on life and they see you and they think, well, wow, well, this person's been through this, and they, if they can make it, well, who am I to give up? Maybe it's not just one person. Maybe there's a dozen, maybe there's 100 lives that you are going to save, you are going to change, that you are going to pivot the direction and the trajectory of their future, which you would not have been able to do if you hadn't suffered that horrible whatever it was. See, we don't understand the full story, because what happens in chapter 2 or chapter 3 or episode 2 or 3, it may come back and be connected with chapter 9 or with season 2 of what is your life. Just think about these things sometimes. And in light of that, this verse in Surah Baqarah 216, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وعسى أن تكرهوا شيئا وهو خير لكم, that perhaps there is something you detest, you hate, I wish that didn't happen, or I wish this isn't happening, or I wish this, whatever the thing is. Maybe it's something about yourself, maybe it's something about others, maybe it's about life, maybe وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. Yet this may be a source of khair for you, maybe for you to others. وَعَسَىٰ أَن تُحِبُّوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ شَرٌّ لَكُمْ. Perhaps there are certain things you love, but they are a source of harm for you. وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. We all want comfort, and there's nothing wrong in wanting that. There's this proverb I read many years ago. When I was learning Arabic, on that side note, I might start teaching Arabic soon. I was thinking about it. I thought, maybe there is something about. But when I was learning it, and I was, I think, 18, 19. So we're talking, maybe 24 years ago at least, something like that. I've read this proverb in this story that it was speaking about a cow, a bull, very relevant to today's topics, I guess. The heifer, the cow, and we'll come to that in a moment. But it was saying that, you see, the nature of this cow, it was being made to work on the fields and plow and do these things, and the ox or whatever it was, but it just wants to rest, it just wants to eat, it just wants to chill out. But whilst it's working, you see, and it's not eating as much, it's much slimmer, skinnier, and it's not as beefed up. And the thing said that, you see, it would prefer to just eat and just sleep. But it said, fi simniha dhabhuha, that, you see, in its fattening up, beefing up, lies its slaughter. That is when the owners will slaughter it as it gets beefed up. That it's, this is obviously metaphorical. Sure, it could be it's real as well. I guess it's more of a symbolic truth, but it's a reflection of life as well. عسى أن تكرهوا شيئا وهو خير لكم وعسى أن تحبوا شيئا وهو شر لكم والله يعلم وأنتم لا تعلمون. So these are things sometimes as reminders, Allah telling us in the Quran, because everybody's going through a difficult battle. Honestly, everybody is struggling. Even the person that you think has it all, they're struggling with their own things. It's just that the struggles are different. And sometimes it's the perception that's different. Somebody's struggling for food. Somebody's struggling for shelter. Somebody's struggling for health. Somebody has health, has wealth, has money, and they're struggling with their relationship. It's driving them into madness. Somebody has all these indulgences. They have money, wealth, you name it, immerse yourself in a pool of desires and lust and whatever you want. And yet they're drowning in an existential crisis. They don't know what to do. Is this it? Life has lost meaning. Many people you just Google that will be living this life and then they kill themselves. See, everybody's fighting a difficult battle. This is why we have to remember to be kind. We don't know, honestly. You could see someone and think, what's this person? This person. Even sometimes, you see, sometimes a lot of people who are cruel to other people, it's just because they've been through so much, and they've not known that's turned them into this person. It's not that they themselves are by default, for the most part. Maybe some people are just, foul and rotten, but a lot of people, it's the struggle they've been through and not known how to adapt. And this is where this verse of the Quran, and there is a hadith here as well, we'll take a look at that, but this verse at the bottom that you can see from Surah Al-Infitar, verse 14, that innal abrara lafi na'im wa innal fujara lafi jahim. And remember, one way of seeing this is right here in this very lifetime, that those who are bir, people of what? Of that do good, that do righteousness, that do right unto others. Lafi na'im. But you may say, well, how are they in this bliss? They seem to, I don't see them driving. We spoke of Andrew Tate. They don't have a Bugatti. What color is your Bugatti? Huh? They don't have these luxuries. They don't live in a mansion. They don't have all these things. What's this? إن الأبرار لفي نعيم. أين هذا النعيم? Where is it? Allah. But it's a state of mind. It's a tranquility of the heart. ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب. See, this, not every, remember I said that our existence is more in our psychosocial existence. We live more in that realm than we do in the physical world. وَإِنَّ الْفُجَّارَ لَفِي جَحِيمٍ. See, people who are cruel and wicked and do these things, even if they perceptibly have these things, wealth, and do this, they're in this inferno. But where is it? Because they seem to be, this woman they seem to be killing it, loving life. But it's in there. And that's worse because they can't even run away from it. It's not, you can't run away from your mind. And it's the one thing that even science hasn't, we haven't really progressed. If just look at healthcare, if you had a certain health condition 50 years ago, 70 years ago, and you had it today, well, there's much greater technology about today, much better medicating resources to help you and to hopefully cure you. But the mind, we haven't made, where have we got to? Nowhere. Antidepressants. The hell is that about? That's not going to cure anyone. This is a much greater prison than just a physical ailment. Because the body can repair itself. The mind, however, that's something else, that is. So, just remembering these things. And there was this hadith which I often speak to you guys about, and that is it is in both Bukhari and Muslim, that يقول الله تعالى, it's a hadith قدسي, that أنا عند ظن عبدي بي أنا عند ظن عبدي بي وأنا معه إذا ذكرني. So this first part, أنا عند ظن عبدي بي, that I am with, or here it means I am with them, treating them in accordance, my people in accordance we are in accordance with their expectation, their perception of me. أنا عبدي بي وأنا معه إذا ذكرني. And if he or she is mindful of me, I am with them. Allah. What more could a person ask for? So, this was a reminder that people our past does not define us. Try whatever it takes, rise. That you don't know how many people are awaiting your support for them. You don't know. They this far in the future yet. You can't see that far. But yeah, may Allah make it easy. I hope that's of some help. Let me take a look at some questions and then we can move on. I will share a link and people can jump on. Nora, much love for the super chat. Of course, I will certainly certainly do that. Right. Rahim, much love, much love. I wish the ring never came to me. What is the ring? Right. What else am I? Azmat, shukran, much love for the super chat. Such a beautiful. Shukran, Allah bless you and keep you smiling. Ameen. Scorpio. Right. Oh, yep. That's the Patreon people. It is Scorpio Shukran saying can sign up. There's different tiers. So people who are interested, you can sign up on patreon.com/MALM. There are different tiers. Some of them are, I mean, from the very bottom up, it signs up to there's a Discord server called Mindscape. You can join that with all these wonderful community and caravan on there of amazing people. But there are varied tiers in there, right up to you can book one-to-one consultations and discuss. There's a lot of things people have on their mind and they want that kind of FaceTime. May Allah make it easy for them. You can do that. You can go to, I'll put it up here anyway, and I'll scroll through. There it is in the bottom right-hand corner. All right. All right. So I want to share with you guys a discussion on Surah Baqarah, the sacrifice of the heifer. Now, heifer is a young cow. So let me just bring this back up. There it is. So we want to take a look at these verses from, I believe, verse 67, Surah Baqarah, to 72, possibly, or 71. So, A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitan Rajim. You can see here, وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِقَوْمِهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُكُمْ أَن تَذْبَحُوا بَقَرَةً قالوا أتتخذنا هزوا قال أعوذ بالله أن أكون من الجاهلين. وَإِذْ, إِذْ in Arabic, when used in the Quran, وَإِذْ, it's usually remember when. So what's missing there is وَذْكُرُوا إِذْ, and remember when. This is different from إِذَا, which means if or when, but in a conditional sense, like when you do this, then I will do that. So that's more the kind of conditional mood of saying, so إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحُ, when the victory comes and the help of God, etc. This when is more about when I'm reminding you about something in the past. I say, oh, when we were over there and this happened. So wadhkuru, is what is understood in the minds of the readers. وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِقَوْمِهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُكُمْ أَن تَذْبَحُوا بَقَرًا. So Moses, and remember when, this is verse 67, Allah is reminding the Israelites and people by extension that when Moses said to them, Allah commands you that you sacrifice the cow. Allah. قالوا أتتخذنا هزوا? Is this some kind of a joke? قال أعوذ بالله أن أكون من الجاهلين. Said, I seek refuge from Allah that I would play such a joke on you that God is saying this. It's interesting that why did they respond in that way? They obviously find to them, so something clear isn't going on here. It's not like there's a cow in front of them and God says, why don't you sacrifice the cow? That there is something going on. قالوا ادع لنا ربك يبين لنا ما هي. They said, why don't you ask your Lord to explain to us, yaar, what is this? Yaar, ye kaun si guy hai? What is this cow? قال إنه يقول, Allah says, إنها بقرة لا فارض ولا بكر. It is not one so old, not incredibly young, like a baby calf. عوان بين ذلك, something in the middle, a heifer. فَفَعَلُوا مَا تُؤْمَرُونَ. You know what's better than that? Why don't you just do what you're told to do? You see, and this is, one way of looking at this, it's so amazing. Wallahi, you're going to love this. So let's just go through the verses first. قالوا ادع لنا ربك يبين لنا ما لونها. Said, Yar, what color is it though? قال إنه يقول إنها بقرة صفراء. It's a bright kind of yellow. فاقع لونها تسر الناظرين. Very pleasing color. This bright kind of like a yellowish, hide to it. So قالوا ادع لنا ربك يبين لنا ما هي إن البقرة تشابه علينا. They said, why do you ask? Notice, why don't you ask your Lord? They're slightly annoyed. Not our Lord. Why don't you ask your Lord? Yeah, all these cows seem the same. Which one? وَإِنَّا إِنْ شَاء اللَّهِ لَمُهْتَدُونَ. Don't worry, we'll get there eventually. قال إنه يقول إنها بقرة لا ذلول تثير الأرض ولا تسقي الحرث مسلمة لا شية فيها. Said it's not one that has worked. It's not one that waters the fields. There's no blemishes in it. قالوا الآن جئت بالحق. They said, अच्छा, समझ गए. فهمنا. Now we understand. جئت بالحق فذبحوها وما كادوا يفعلون. They did sacrifice it, but they almost didn't. Now, what was this verse talking about? Now, this verse after it, وَإِذْ قَتَلْتُمْ نَفْسًا. And when you killed a person, a soul, a self, a person, فَدَّارَأْتُمْ فِيهَا. أي تنازعتم فيها. You guys fell into this dispute. وَاللَّهُ مُخْرِجٌ مَا كُنْتُمْ تَكْتُمُونَ. Now, this verse 72, and when, وَإِذْ, and remember when you killed this person and you fell into a dispute. Is this verse connected to the verses before this? So many people have felt, in fact, you'll find many people feel that it was. And this whole story of the cow, they say it's the order is slightly back and forward, that really this is the verse that you guys killed someone and you started disputing. then you rewind, and then Allah says, "What? Okay, what? Why don't you sacrifice a cow?" And then you ask all these weird questions. Why are you asking questions? Because you're awkward people. Which, to be fair, the Israelites were known to be quite awkward with Moses. And eventually you do it, and what God says is, why don't you take a bit of meat and tap this dead body with it, and then the dead body comes back to life, and the dead body points to the killer. This story is incredibly widely circulated. Most people have heard of this story now, and that's how many people may believe this. Okay, but that's not the only way to look at this. Now, if you look at this, several people will also if see this with fresh eyes. And in fact, Ibn Ashur in his tafsir, the great Maliki legend and my indirect teacher, the teacher of my teacher, Sheikh Sidi Bukhubza, who I have a chain and ijaza in his tafsir of the Quran. In his 30-volume Tahrir wa Tanwir, and he was the Grand Maliki Mufti of his era in the 20th century. He writes that it's very plausible, since this verse is coming after, that this story of them debating over a dead body has nothing to do with the previous verses to do with the sacrifice in the cow, and that these are two separate incidents. That's very plausible. He does mention several people feel these are linked and it was something to do with that, but it's also very plausible since that story comes completely after this. It's not much of a story, but um, that comes there to it comes after وَإِذْ قَتَلْتُمْ نَفْسًا, and when you killed a soul. So obviously there was something in the Jewish tradition, in their uh, in their kind of psyche, of some story of somebody they had killed, and it must have been an important person. So Allahu A'lam who that person was, whether it was, for example, one of their prophets, whether it was Harun, or whether it was Joshua, or whether it was one of somebody else, whether it was one of their chieftains, or whether it was Allahu A'lam, as some people, I guess, like Freud had speculated that they'd killed Moses and buried the body. But and that's all speculation, but I'm just saying whoever this incident is, but it seems to be a very significant incident that was in the psyche of a very secretive kind of legacy being passed down in the Jewish psychosocial elite circles. So now Allah is drawing attention to that afterwards in verse 72. But if you go back before that to verse 67, this story here, وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى, when Moses said to his people, why don't you sacrifice? Allah is commanding you to sacrifice the cow. Now, one way of looking at that is that this was just a sacrifice that they made difficult, because there are many verses and it has a lesson in it, that when something comes to you, I guess tied into a different verse that is also in Surah Baqarah. No, but the other verse that يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تسألوا عن أشياء إن تبد لكم تسؤكم. That do not ask about things that if you come to know of them, they only cause you harm. So, and that's of course a wonderful, amazing reminder. So sure, you can take that understanding, and that's there. But another way, you see, and this is the amazing nature of the Quran, that when you look at it with a fresh perspective, it gives you a fresh insight. Another way to look at this was through the Egyptian symbolism and mythology. Was this a symbolic command? You see, sacrifice the cow. Now, those of you that are maybe familiar with Egyptian mythology will know that one of the most popular or an incredibly popular deity in the Egyptian heritage was Hathor. Hathor was a sky deity. She was the mother and consort of the sun god Ra, amongst other amongst other deities as well. She was symbolic for things like nourishment, for nourishing. She was like a Rab, like a Rabba, like that. She was that kind of nourishing goddess. She was often depicted as a cow, as a yellow cow, and symbolizing that kind of maternal instinct. She was believed to be somebody uh, that would also, not only in this world, provide nourishment and risk, but also when people pass into the underworld, she would work hard to feed them, provide them their risk, and to water them, provide them something to drink. She was also seen as the goddess of music and love and fertility and sex, and an incredibly uh, powerful figure that we find Hathor. Um, right now, here she is again, a celestial cow personification of the Milky Way. So the Milky Way kind of personification is done with Hathor, mother of mothers, Ummul Ummahat, lady of the stars. That lady of heaven. This is what they saw her as, and these are her symbols that are found um, in hieroglyphs that you see. Now, you see, with this in mind, you can see here again. So that's her once again hieroglyphics. With this in mind, it is very plausible. You see, because one thing we know about the Israelites is that they had grown up with all these beliefs so deeply entrenched in them that they they struggle to let go of this. The Quran cites this, that وَإِذْ جَاوَزْنَا, that when we crossed the river, the sea with them, that marru, they came across a town, a people, يَعْكُفُونَ عَلَى أَصْنَامٍ, that these people, um, that they came across, what's the verse? Uh, that they say to Moses, اجعل لنا إلها كما لهم آلهة. That they say to Moses that why don't you set up a god for us the way they've got gods? And in the tafsir of that verse, who were the what was the gods that they came across? I'll also just bring it up. Let me see. All right, okay. When it's the phone is this is one of those. No, this is brought up the other one right there. Here it is. Right, okay. Yeah. وَجَاوَزْنَا بِبَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ الْبَحْرِ. It's in Surah A'raf, verse 138. فَأَتَوْا عَلَى قَوْمٍ يَعْكُفُونَ عَلَى أَصْنَامٍ. They come past a people that are fixated on these statues. So, قالوا يا موسى اجعل لنا إلها كما لهم آلهة قال إنكم قوم تجهلون. So they say to Moses, why don't you make a god for us the way they have gods? And he said, you are a people, entrenched in ignorance. So this thing, marru ala qawmin ya'kufuna ala asnamin lahum. So they go past the people. So in Tabari and in all these tafasir, like Qurtubi, they mention that the idols they had were also idols of the cow. They were idols of baqara, asnamu baqar, statues with which was very likely to be Hathor. So this is very deeply entrenched in the Israelite kind of spirit. And you remember when Moses goes to the mount, and after they build the golden calf, Ajl, the Quran mentions the golden calf. Certain people have written that golden calf was the son of Hathor that they'd built, that they'd constructed. So Hathor clearly would have had this presence, this nourishing Rab element for the Israelites. And it was something very difficult for them to kind of strip themselves from. Now, you see, you take a look now with that in mind. Okay, so you've got, and you see now, وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِقَوْمِهِ, that he says to them, Allah is commanding you to sacrifice the cow. Allah. And it's as if they are kind of like, is this a joke? A random cow? But a part of them, maybe it's clocked what the real message is. It's thinking, So, when somebody is telling you to do something and you're kind of worried that, is it what I'm thinking? But it might not be what I'm thinking. It might be this instead. What do? You start to allude to other things, that the distraction. قالوا ادع لنا ربك يبين لنا ما هي. What kind of cow? Yeah, there's loads of cows. How old should this cow be? So Moses says, well, something in the middle. Not old, not a baby calf. It's something in the middle. Why don't you just do? It's better that you do what you're commanded to do. فَفَعَلُوا مَا تُؤْمَرُونَ. قَالُوا ادْعُ لَنَا رَبَّكَ. You see, they're getting annoyed. Call your Lord. Ask him. Yar, what color is this cow? You see, maybe at this point, they know, right, what is being asked here. Yar, what color is this cow? There's a white cow, there's a dark brown one, there's a, oh no, it's a yellow cow. Allah. You see, right, one that pleases people. This golden yellow embodiment of Hathor seems to please you all. Yar, a yellow cow. Heifer, cha. Here there are yellow there are certain, you say, yellowish cows, breeds of cow. Yar, إن البقرة تشابه علينا. There's so many cows, yar. Some of them, yar, which one is it that your God is after? But we'll get there. Which one is he after? قال إنا بقرة لا ذلول تثير. It's not one that provides nourishment. Allah. It's not one that's developing your rizq. It's not one that's watering you or watering your rizq. This, but one that you have no blemish, you ascribe no blemishes to. Not this cow that's sick on one day and that cow that's got a limp. Oh no, this is one that you ascribe no blemishes to. Allah. You see, and here it's as if they now know what is being asked. Hello, okay. Ji'ta bil haqq. You okay. Hands up. فذبحوها. They did sacrifice it, right? فذبحوها وما كادوا يفعلون. But it was a struggle to let go. Such is the power of superstition and idolatry that was deeply entrenched in their psyche. ما كادوا يفعلون. So difficult for them to let go. But if you do, your past does not define you. Allah. See, so that's I thought this was honestly so it's just amazing, honestly beautiful to really just reflect on and just see this this resonance of this message that wow, how there are sometimes things weighing us down, these idols of old that are in our psyche, and we have to, inna Allah ya'murukum an tadhbahu baqara. Sacrifice that golden cow. Let it go. Wholeheartedly walk towards God. Allah. I wanted to really share that with you guys. I thought it's something I deeply enjoyed it, and I hope it's of some benefit. Allah bless you all. So shukran. What I'll do is I will share out the link. If anybody wants to jump on, they can. And we will wrap this up as well. This also ties in, by the way. Yes, somebody did say it ties into Uzair also being Osiris, which I have a video on previously. So we read the Quran and it continues to unlock mesmerizing, breathtaking insights every time we bring fresh eyes to it. And that's a beautiful reminder of the majesty of this kalam. Right. Let's that it is fascinating. I've been very fascinated by it. I did want to share it with you guys, and so I'd just been distracted with things going on, and that's why. Yeah, so right, I'll just let that go by. I have shared, I'll bring up, look at that, the celestial personification of the Milky Way. As above, so down below, the sacrifice. There you go, guys. All right, let's close that. I'm just going to pick up my headphones if anybody. Well, I mean, we can wrap this up as well quite quickly, and it is it is getting quite late as well. And I do keep saying this, but I definitely do mean to start these quite earlier now, inshallah, so I can wrap them up. Is this not connecting? Let me try again. Okay, disconnect it from here. All right, that should be connected. Right, so right, other than that, what are we looking at? I do find, on a separate note, it would be fascinating to see this research. I wonder, did is there anything in the Jewish tradition that they feel that, this thing that Freud speculates that the Jewish people killed Moses? I wonder if there's anything of that in their heritage, because it is quite just the disappearance of Moses for the Israelites becomes very intriguing. That where does Moses go? And they don't, they say, well, they left him somewhere, and apparently they do know because the Ark of the Covenant is there. But then they do go back. I think they go to get the Ark of the Covenant, but they don't go back to get Moses, and I mean his body, or they don't mark his grave. So, and this is why Freud, psychoanalyzing, he was Jewish himself, but not, he was ethnically Jewish. He didn't believe in Judaism, but he psychoanalyzes um, the Israelites, and he feels that the Israelites are based on a lot of guilt, that their whole foundation, that the early Israelites are deeply entrenched in a sense of guilt. And he argues that that guilt stems from them having murdered Moses in the wilderness. And they struggle to shed this guilt. And this is in his book, Moses and Monotheism, Freud's book. So it makes you wonder if there is anything in the Jewish literature that resonates that kind of or that kind of narrative. Right. So, yeah. Right. Okay. So, what else is going on, people? You missed some super chats. Let me take a look at some super chats whilst we're waiting. I'll share the uh, link again, and then I'll go to some super chats. Okay. Amin, shukran, much love for the super chat. Is there anything problematic with viewing the stories of the prophets like Moses as mythology instead of historical events? What does mythology mean here? As in they're just made up? As in it's just a story? Right. Um, I have a mind trap with Dr. Javad Hashmi, where we speak of mythology or meta narratives and met meta myths. I think are they called? I've forgotten what he calls it now. But this, and Dr. Javad Hashmi, who is an incredible mind and a genius and an intellectual. Um, he is arguing this point, and I'm arguing the other side, or in a discussion. I'm not arguing; we're having a dialogue, and so whether he believes in that entirely or not, I'm not so sure if he actually believes in the whole thing, but that it's all a myth. I think he says he doesn't necessarily believe it like that, but he's arguing that he's arguing that viewpoint in the Mind Trap. So if you search his name on Mind Trap, it's like a 2-hour discussion, and we go through. So I'm arguing the historical perspective, and he's positing that hypothesis of, and we discuss it. So I do feel that to me, it doesn't make sense that the story was just made up for a story, for the sake of a story, that these were real people, that there was this great story is based in reality, not in fiction. So okay, I hope that helps. Right, but do watch that and let me know your thoughts. Munir, shukran, much love for the super chat. May Allah bless you, grant shifa to your mother. Ameen, ameen, shukran. Allah bless you too, Munir, and may Allah keep you always smiling and happy. Ameen. Can you do a mind trap with Dr. Raymond Harvey? Right, I'm not sure who that is, but send me the details and ask them as well. Let me know who they are, and I'll kind of search them up as well. Look at this. You're getting me through my night shift. I like it. Oh, just glad to be of some help. Right. Okay. We've got somebody who's the ultimate truth. Ya salam. Ultimate truth. Have I answered? Let me. Assalamu alaikum. Al-Haq, the ultimate truth.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Hello.
How did you know I was?
Are you
Yeah, can you
muted?
hear me?
I feel your mic.
No.
Or can I not hear it? Is that what's going on? Let me check. 1 second. Is
Hear me
that
now?
the issue? 1 second. It could be that my audio settings are not. Let me see. Yeah, I think it could be this actually. Let me connect this. 1 second. Let me check this now. Okay, this seems to be working now. Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Can you hear me?
Right, now I can hear. I can now. Ahlan wa sahlan. Assalamu alaikum. I can't see your camera isn't turned on.
Oh, you got to be on?
Yeah, turn it on so we can see the radiance coming from this,
Okay.
from the beautiful human being that is shedding and voicing his thoughts. Allah, Allah. How are you
I'm at
doing?
home. I'm great. How are you, brother?
I'm good.
See,
Allah be
I'm not in the
praised.
position of. So, how do you know I was a Muslim?
How did I know you're a Muslim? You
Yeah.
see, whether people are Muslim or not, God be praised in all circumstances. Huh?
No, I'm talking about the Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum
And,
assalam. Shukran. Where are you joining us from, and what's your name?
my name on YouTube and thing is Ultimate Truth.
Ultimate truth.
Yeah.
I like that. It's very ultimate, and it's clearly the truth. What could be better? Where are you joining us from, Ultimate Truth?
I live in the United States. I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio right now. But I'm from Africa, from West Africa, from Senegal.
Senegal. Wow. All right. Awesome. MashaAllah. So yeah. So talk to us, Ultimate Truth. What's preoccupying your precious thoughts? What would you like to share with us?
I mean, I'm just trying to figure you out. I've been following you. I discovered you the first time with those videos that those Christians has been doing and using a lot of your images against the Sunni Muslims. When you was laughing, at first I thought you was a Christian. Yeah. I didn't know you.
Oh,
and then I saw a comment.
As Jesus said, "Come to the light, huh? So none shall reach the Father except through me." So,
exactly.
Yeah.
So then I saw some comments saying that he's a Muslim, right? Somebody asking. Then I investigated. Then I knew who you were. Then I went to I subscribed to your channel. I just didn't have a time to. I know you got something different. I know you got a different kind of belief than the regular Sunni Muslims. I'm a Quran alone follower.
Okay.
I only follow the Quran. So I don't know. I just would like to know a little bit more about you. What do you believe? You're Muslim, yes?
Sure. Yes, of course. That's a great question. Yeah, let me have a little go at that. And so,
do I have to have that?
Yeah, shukran.
Do I have to have the camera on?
Yes. Say that again.
Do I have to have the camera on? Do I have to have the camera on? all the time.
If you can turn it off if you want, if it's affecting your stream,
Uh,
and because I can see it's getting a bit
it is.
botchy. So if it makes it easier for your
Yes.
stream to put your logo back on, you can do. That's cool, and I'll answer your
Thank
question
you.
as well. All right.
All right.
So
I'll be here with you.
yes. So yes, of course. And so everybody is welcome, to the channel, and whoever it can help, and people of whatever faith, and people of no faith, and people within Islam, and all denominational persuasions within Islam are welcome. And really, it's not about us. The journey is to God. As to the question about me, I am a Sunni Muslim. I don't really think I'm. I mean, I wouldn't describe myself as having um, views different to Sunni Muslims at all, because I would definitely see myself as within mainstream Sunni Islam, except I may appear slight to reflect a different side of that, which is more about the voice of reason, and it's more about things like that that understanding of Islam that is more, I guess, it's nested in compassion, in reason, in welfare, as opposed to the. I suppose you could put that. You could. I don't know. These are not opposites, but I'm just juxtaposing them. You've got a very like a hard hitting da'wah approach on the internet by people, this kind of street da'wah, which has a very impositional nature to it. This embrace Islam, people, everybody, if you don't, you're wrong, you're sinful, you're going to hell, you're doing this, you're doing that. That kind of attitude that has become, unfortunately, very popular through social media. I'm not saying that is most Muslims, but it's probably magnified the most. So the reflection does not reflect the reality necessarily. We could, in a pond, somebody could be looking at the entire Milky Way, or an entire constellation, or the moon in a little pond, but it doesn't truly reflect the reality. This is just a tiny thing, but it amplifies it. So the internet, people, for some reason, these people have that kind of hard hitting, chest thumping kind of approach, has a lot of followers, and it's very confrontational. So naturally, maybe that attracts attention. And so, yeah, so I'm definitely not of that kind of attitude. I don't believe, I feel that stuff does a lot of harm. And it's not about a members club. It's not about, to me, the faith is, it's a light. And it's like, people want to come and benefit from the light. That is wonderful. And sure, it brings a kind of sense of pride to us, that it's because it's one big family. And sure, I'm the kind of person that the thought of family makes me happy. It doesn't make me, this is a random question. I remember once we had this discussion once, that imagine you found out that you had more members of your family, like you had more siblings, you had more, let's say, we were running this hypothesis, this hypothetical, sorry, once. And I said I would actually be, I would be very pleased to meet them. I'm very eager and very, see, this thought of family to me is a very positive thing. And so, in a way, this faith is a family. And so when people they want to come and sit in that moonlight as well, that's amazing. But it's not about a members club to me. It's more about that love. And yeah, I take pride, but it's not about, yeah, let's have one every day, let's have five every, it's not about data and number crunching. And so I would see myself different. And also my approach on the fact that I do resonate with the same opinion of certain scholars of the past, like Ibn Rushd and other Muslim Maliki Sunni scholars who said that the deen must always, it's never clashes with the voice of reason, that the voice of reason and the faith, because God gave us reason, so God would never say something that contradicts reason. That principle, I do hold dear to that principle. So, and I guess some people don't, and they're entitled to their opinions. So these things probably differentiate us. Otherwise, I don't think I don't think with otherwise, I think the differences between us are not actually about faith. They're just about attitudes. That's all. It's not that's my summary, and I guess people could disagree with that. But I appreciate you actually saying, you know, how do you see yourself with this faith? Because I guess it's it's interesting to answer that question. So yeah, shukran for that, ultimate truth.
Yeah, brother. I know I didn't ask a lot of questions. Where are you from? India?
Right. So
Pakistani? Where are you from?
so ethnically, I mean, I'm born and raised in the UK, Birmingham, in England, but my family
Yeah.
ethnically we are Pakistani. So
Okay.
yeah, from Kashmir in Pakistan. Yeah. So that's ethnically,
Okay.
but
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I
But I
guess you're
mean,
born in the Sunni.
so
Yes.
yeah, so as I do say as well, I say Pakistani, and by extension the whole Hindustani, you know, the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
that Indian subcontinent. Yeah. So,
Yes.
but shukran. I appreciate this ultimate truth. Yeah. So I appreciate you
I
taking
mean,
out the time. And if
you
there's
are you are welcome to ask any question you want to, but I would love to ask you this question because I really did not
sure,
know if you was a Sunni. Sometime I did hear you quote some. I watched your exchange with what's his name?
yeah,
Can you hear me?
yeah. I can hear you. Yeah,
Can you hear me now? Hold on.
I
Let
can.
me cut the camera off. Maybe it's gonna help.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I think it's kind of getting botchy, so it might
Can
be
you hear me
because of
better
your
now?
camera. Sure. I can hear you. Yep. Go for it. I think maybe if you put your camera out.
Hello?
Yeah, I think if you turn your camera off, maybe it will allow the
Yeah, I
audio
cannot.
to be.
Breaking up.
No problem. Look, we've got what? Yeah, is that better? Can you speak? Can you speak?
Yeah.
Well, yes. Okay.
For
Yeah,
some
go for it.
reason.
Go for it. Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Go for it. What was the
Okay.
question?
My question was, what did you see? What could you see in the Sunni Muslim traditions that make you doubt being a Sunni? Or what do you see, and vice versa, of course, and what do you see in the Sunni Muslims custom,
Mhm.
whatever thing that make you hold into the Sunnism?
Sure.
And
Okay.
vice versa. And
Sure.
I'm sure you heard about, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Keep going. Keep going.
Okay.
Mhm. And right. Okay. And I take it you
With Adib Yüksel. So what did you see in the Quran alone, people, the same two
Quran
questions
alone. Okay.
that make you
Mhm.
think they're right, or that made you think that they're wrong? What they're missing, what they're not
Mhm.
missing, both
Mhm.
sides.
Sure. Okay. Right. Okay.
Thank
Let's have a go at answering that, and then uh, so let's have at it, and then we have got somebody else waiting, and then cool, we'll wrap this up. But this is a wonderful question. I actually spoke to just yesterday, yesterday now. Oh, I suppose now we've gone into Thursday. So on Tuesday with one of my Patreons on our one-to-one, I call them perspective sessions, but one-to-one consultation, and it was on this because the person was also very, he had become very curious with the Quran only tradition and had several reservations about hadith. So, in fact, our entire hour discussion was just on this. So, Right. So let's try to have at this in a very kind of condensed manner. So first of all, Sunni Islam. To me, Sunni Islam is just Islam. It is just main Islam. I don't see really Islam only breaks into three kind of factions, if you like. This tripartite perspective. And that is really just, and to me, it is really just Islam. And then you get this, you had political issues that drove the schisms. And the three were you had what would be the Khawarij, or people that went off with a very kind of um, an extreme element, but it wasn't just about the element, it was in essence about politics, about rulership. And then obviously they became very extreme, and you still have a faction of them surviving today known as Ibadis, although they're not like extreme in the way, let's say, the first founding people were, but they stem from that one tearaway tradition. That's a very small percentage of Muslims. The other schism, the major schism which lasts till today, is between Sunni and Shia. To me, once again, this was more about politics, and by politics I mean rulership, who gets to rule, than it was to do with actual beliefs. And then the actual beliefs came secondary or tertiary. But what was at the crux of the issue was about who gets to um, who should follow after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Should it be Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu? Should it be? And I feel that, at the core of, at the heart of these two beliefs or these directions, they're actually not so against each other at their heart, but it's just that the direction of the wind took them in that way. So what happens later on, because I feel that the Sunni literature isn't necessarily against this view of Sayyidina Ali in that sense, and there's clear things showing that, yeah, it could have been that way. It could have been that Sayyidina Ali was to be the next person. It could have. Obviously it wasn't, but it could have been. He obviously was also one of the amazing companions and one of these great people. And there's some things that do indicate that maybe the Prophet, that the Prophet did test the temperament of the people in seeing that, how would they respond by saying, well, whoever I am is man kuntu mawlahu fa aliyun mawla. But the people responded, many of the people, because a lot of the people at that stage were those who had come in the last year and the year before from Mecca after the conquest of liberation of Mecca. They were these newer Muslims who were not, there was a lot of still tension between people. So they didn't take favorably to that, Sayyidina Ali, this suggestion. So maybe it wasn't strategic to go in that direction because it would cause the disintegration of the community, and therefore maybe Abu Bakr would be a much better candidate to hold the community together, as Umar says. But so I don't see that this schism that turns into this big major split in Islam, in its heart, I don't feel that they were that, like, sure, they were different, but they weren't that different from each other. They weren't, and it just developed. So to me, really, okay, the way Sunni Islam went, because the way Shia Islam's continued to develop, and it had this whole thing with the Imams and the holy bloodline and all of this, to me, I find a lot of that uh, is not something that goes with the voice of reason. Okay. I see that more as something with law, not law as in LAW, but LORE, as in more folklore, as in more to do with things like the tradition of families and royal bloodlines and that kind of stuff. And then the Imams are, they're infallible, they're like prophets and all this stuff. And so it doesn't really match this voice of reason. So the main body of Muslims, even till today, worldwide, is just the main body of Muslims. core now Sunni, but for the better part of the Salaf of Islam, the first few generations, they didn't have a name. They were just called the main body of Muslims. And that is what they are today. I feel all these groups that you have today, even the kind of hard-hitting, whether it's going to be Salafis or you're going to have other groups, whether you'll have, I don't know, Deobandis, Brelvis, Sufis, all kinds of people you want to throw in here in this mix. All of them are still part of Sunni Islam, whether they accept it or other people don't accept it. So it's all still mainstream Islam. And it does give the flexibility. I don't feel one person is the gatekeeper to say this person is allowed in or isn't. Although people have tried that all the time, but they're not truly the gatekeepers of God or of Islam. So that, I hope that answers to some extent why I do feel that this is this is the view of Islam that resonates with the voice of reason, and it does stand up to the evidences. But that's going to be a whole bigger discussion. Don't want to get into that right now because of shortage of time.
Yeah.
The thing about the Quran only, now this was a very an interesting discussion. Like I said, you see, and I did, although in that I kind of, that was a whole hour of just speaking on this. I did explain that the Quran only movement, it is a very modern reaction. It's a modern reaction to a modern problem. And you have to understand what I mean when I say that, because it's almost counterintuitive, because people feel, how is this a modern problem? But it is, because look, first of all, original Islam, like if we go back to early Islam, the mainstream body of Muslims, they differentiated between Hadith and Sunnah, or at least many of them did. So the Malikis did, Imam Malik, and the Hanafis did. And the Hanafis and the Malikis, even till today, make up probably what? Like 70% of all Sunni Muslims. The main body of Muslims, even today and all throughout human history, has been of Sunni Muslims, has been Hanafi and Maliki. The Shafi'is have always been they've been a much smaller minority, and the Hanbalis almost didn't exist. So the main, like if you look at all of Central North Africa, that's for the most part always been Maliki. You're going to look at a huge part of Egypt but Egypt's always been kind of like a melting pot. But you would have Tunis, you'd have Algeria, you'll have Morocco, Mauritania, Sudan, Mali, part of Senegal. All these places would be Gambia. All these places would be heavily Maliki. You would have had Spain, Portugal, Sicily. All these things were Maliki. Even till today, places like parts of the UAE, Emirates are Maliki. Eastern part of Saudi Arabia is Maliki. You'll have parts of some people in Bahrain and Qatar are still Maliki. So there is and then you've got all of like Central Asian Muslims, the subcontinent Muslims. These are all Hanafi. You've got Afghanistan, that Central Asia. You're coming right down into Turkey, going right into Eastern Europe. All of this part was Hanafi. And then Shafi'i was just some in the Middle East and Egypt and maybe a bit down towards Somalia and Yemen. So the vast body of Muslims have always seen a difference between Hadith and Sunnah. Hadith is simply a historical record. That's what it is. Now, the Sunnah was the living tradition of the Prophet. Not every Sunnah necessarily got documented, and not everything that got documented was necessarily the practice of the Prophet. Now, Imam Malik recognized that. He spoke about it in his book, the Muwatta. He wrote about it in his Fatawa. He says, yes, this hadith is here, but this is not what we practice. This is not, we don't know what the reality, let's say the dog hadith, licking the bowl. He says, yes, this hadith has come. La nadri ma haqir. We don't know what its reality is because it doesn't make sense. Because the Quran says you can send dogs for hunting. So how can the saliva of dogs be discouraged? Because they would only hunt with their mouths. So you have these schools already in existence. And it's important to understand that, because then you realize, okay, fine. let's keep moving along. You realize that, okay, there is this emergence of the Hadithi project, which starts with Imam Shafi'i, or is popularized with him, and then after him the Muhaddithin. And there is a bit of a story, and we're short on time to go into that. But this thing of Hadith becoming very popular, like Imam Shafi'i said, if the Hadith is Sahih, then that is my madhab. He makes no distinction between Hadith and Sunnah. If the chain is valid, that's all he wants. You see, what this was a reaction as well, in part to the earlier schools like Malik and Abu Hanifa, who had a trust on the region. You see, they believed in an inherited living tradition. So, for example, Imam Malik, the people around him were the grandchildren of the companions who were with the Prophet. So, and he lived in Medina. So they learned from their fathers, from their fathers, from the Prophet. So so he would say, well, the deen is alive in Medina. I'm watching it. I grew up. I know how to pray. I know how to do these things. Now, Abu Hanifa had a similar thing. Scholars had this trust in the city that they lived in, because companions moved there, then their children taught, and then, or their students taught, and their students taught these people, and they documented it. Now, in the time of Imam Shafi'i, it's important to note this point. He doesn't really have this authenticity of a city behind him, because he, as a young boy, leaves Mecca and then he's all over the place. What he does, one could argue, is a genius, stroke of genius, but he shifts this trust from the living tradition, because he doesn't have that. He doesn't have a city behind him because he's moving around. He's more this nomadic lifestyle. He moves it to the chain of tradition, narration, the isnad. He says, like Malik would say, oh, but I trust the people of Medina. He says, well, I just want to know if this chain is connected. If it is, I trust the chain. This is a Copernican moment in Islamic usul. Right. So what happens here is this kind of, this kind of Galileo shift takes place. So this obviously then develops, but it's important to understand a bit of that history. Now, you fast forward anyway. Most of Islam is always learnt through fiqh. It is never learnt through hadith. So look, fiqh is how you practice, so if you pick up the books of fiqh, even Shafi'i fiqh, if you pick up his Kitab al-Umm, all these books, it's just Q&A, Q&A, Q&A. Oh, I am praying, I do this, how do I do that? I ate this whilst I was fasting, is my fast okay? I needed to give zakat on this happened, this person was trying to divorce this, has the divorce happened? How does this inheritance happen? How does that? This is fiqh, Islam. It was just Q&A. Sometimes they gave an evidence, like they may have said, oh, there is a hadith that says this, but mostly it wasn't. Most people learned their Islam through fiqh. That was it. Now, what's happened, you see, in the past, books of hadith were an incredible rarity in this world. So who had books of hadith? Your common person never had books of hadith, ever. Many scholars didn't even have huge compendiums of hadith. So books of hadith were either by those specialized scholars of muhaddithin, those people who specialized in hadith, they had them. Who were not, they weren't 1%, they were 0.0000001% of the Muslim world, the muhaddithin. Now, some scholars may have had books, or if you ever managed to access a major library, they may have had some books there. The common person probably spent an entire life, common Muslim, probably spent an entire life and never stumbled upon Abu Dawood as a book, or stumbled upon maybe Sahih Muslim. Probably never did in their entire lives. Now you fast forward, you come to the 20th century, and then things start getting printed. So you go back about 70, 80 years, and then there's mass circulation of these hadith books. So mass circulation of Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Tirmidhi, all these things. And we all have them now on our bookshelves. So now, for the first time in Muslim history, common Muslims too have started to sit down and open hadith books. And I'm not so they've started to say, oh, Sahih Bukhari, volume 3, what's it saying? In the past, many scholars didn't even do that. So there's been many scholars, fuqaha, of the most scholars of this ummah have always been fuqaha, people of fiqh. That many scholars did not actually read all the popular books of hadith. They did not read them historically. Maybe they read some hadith from some, they attended some classes, but many of them didn't. This is why the fiqh books are often devoid of hadith citations. You hardly find any hadith citations in fiqh books. You find a few here or there, that's it, amongst thousands of masail. So today, this is a very modern problem. So Muslims are now sitting down saying, oh, I've got this hadith, I don't know what to do with it. So, right now, this is why it's then caused a reaction. So the Quran only movement is a modern reaction to a modern problem. It didn't exist historically, because historically, none of this was ever going to, you could never stumble upon. A common Muslim would never, maybe a common Muslim in the past heard a hadith one day, a random, let's say a strange hadith. Somebody told him, he met a person who was learned and said, hey, did you know there is a strange hadith that says do this? Now, he wouldn't know. He'd probably go and ask a scholar, and the scholar might say, look, maybe there is, or there's some, you don't worry about it. Or sure, that may have happened as an anomaly. But today you've got people who ain't trained in Islam, and they're just reading hadith books nonstop, and then they don't know what to do with the hadith, these historical records. But the historical records, many of them may not be true. Many of them may be true. Many of them, all of them have a context, though, whether they're false or not. And people just picking it up don't know that, so they don't know how to answer it. So what I would say is, look, if you come across a hadith and it troubles you, the general principle that many of the muhaddithin wrote, like Ibn al-Jawzi, amongst others, and Nawawi and Suyuti has it in his thing, that look, that if the hadith, you first, for it to be acceptable, it cannot go against reason. Ma lam yubayin al-ma'qul, lam yukhalif al-manqul. It cannot go against the Quran or the established living tradition of Islam. And walam yunakhid al-usul, and it cannot uproot an Islamic principle. So let's say an Islamic principle is like innocent till proven guilty, or alive till proven dead, or you have these things. This is an Islamic principle known as istishabul hal. Under it, you get all these principles. So if you found a hadith that violated that, it would not, it's inadmissible according to these things. So right now, that gives some light. Now you may say, but there are certain people who say today, oh, we accept this hadith and we accept this hadith and we accept this. Yes, now that's in two parts. Part of it may be because of what some scholars said in the past, sure. And part of it may be as a reaction to colonialism, because when colonialism happened in certain parts of the world, there was a lot of criticizing Islam that took place with the missionary work. So what you find, and people like Yuval Harari speak about this as well, not just Muslims, but you find at the end of the 19th century and early 20th century, many people in the world double down on fundamentalism and dogma, including Christians. They double down on it because their worldview has started to get threatened by modernity. And they don't know at that stage how to answer the question. So the immediate reaction is to double down. It's called the backfire effect in psychology. So you get this. Now, so you will get, and we are still witnessing the aftermath of this. So when people say, for example, the age of Aisha was 9, this is a very modern discussion. Why did they not discuss this in the books previously? Because this discussion came to light with colonialism. Because as they started to study Muslim books and find faults with it, they said, your books say this. So Muslims were obviously getting beaten on all fronts at that side and getting killed and massacred and suffering from famine, and then the religion is being attacked. You see, they weren't like it caught people that weren't in the best of their state. So some people did try to reason the response, but other people just responded with, so what? We believe even if it's absurd. And hence you find the old Christians doing this. The old Christian scholars who wrote, who was the famous who said, "We believe because it's absurd to believe." So this is exactly what you start seeing some Muslims do in, let's say, in the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. They start doubling down in this reactionary bravado almost to colonial insecurity fears. So, and we're still witnessing that right now. So we're witnessing the reaction of those people because it's, those books are still what people are teaching. So I would say that, look, it is, look, when we look at, okay, and I'll wrap up on this, right? When we look at, let's say, let's take a look now, as a good example is, you take Orientalists. Now, Orientalists said the Quran was fabricated. Yeah, they said Muslims made up the Quran. They made it up most likely in the Abbasid era, and they back projected it and they invented the character of the Prophet Muhammad. Now, this was written by many Orientalists. And okay, whether some of them accepted the Prophet existed or not is a different debate, but they felt the Quran was invented in the Abbasid era. Now, you see, Muslims, our historical records, our hadith literature, it taught us that, look, this is what happened after the Prophet passed away, the time of Abu Bakr. There's this compilation effort to bring the Quran together. This really is, there's a maturation. This matures in the time of Uthman with the script. And we know this because the script they were trying to write was the Jazm script, the modern, the Arabic script we have now. And they were trying to lock in the way the word could be read. And, that's a different discussion, how many ways the word could be read, but they were trying to, there was an orthographical parameter placed in the Quranic script. So we have these, told to us, and that Uthman said, look, there are some people who write things differently. We've now agreed on this. So what I advise you to do is burn the other mushafs so we don't confuse people. And let's, I'm sending out a copy of these mushafs to, this is all known in, right, this is all known in our history, taught to us by hadith. Now, look, a couple of years ago, you had the Birmingham folios of the Quran being examined and carbon dated. And they got carbon dated right back to either the lifetime or maybe within 1 to 2 decades after the lifetime of the Prophet. This, not only was it backdated to what falls to be chronologically the time of Uthman, when they did X-rays and with UV rays and checked the whole, these kind of folios, the parchment that it was written on, you could see that there were certain amendments made on certain things, which is exactly the story and the description that we have in our books of how this happened. We exactly said that the Quran, this is what happened, then people put it together, then in the time of Uthman there were disagreements on these things, they wrote it like this, they came to an agreement and they corrected certain things. This was in our hadith literature. The hadith literature is just historical literature that we have. We had this. Now when they found that, they said, the Abbasid era isn't until 150 years later, after all of this. Oh, so the Quran. Oh, so now we've carbon dated the Quran to a decade or two within the lifetime of the Prophet Muhammad, and it seems to coincide with the description and the story that the Muslims already had. This goes to show, look, the Hadith explaining this was correct. And even said about things like not to say Bismillah for Surah Fatiha, for Surah Tawbah, because it said next to the Bismillah, La taqul, don't say this, La taqul Bismillah. And that's fascinating, because that's what the Hadith tells you about Surah Tawbah. So what you have here is that it is undeniable. And this is what I said to, in my Patreon meeting, one-to-one kind of session. I said, look, what is undeniable is that some hadith is accurate. Now, once you accept some is, it's plausible that some other is too. Now, that doesn't mean that every single hadith that reaches us is always accurate, but it goes to show you that every hadith reaching us is false, is a false statement. So, this belief that we need to jettison and debunk all hadith because hadith are all false, well, historical dating, archaeological and anthropological discussions today through carbon dating of these folios has actually shown that the hadith literature on that discussion stands true. So if it stands true there, the logical posited conclusion or corollary would be that, well, it's very plausible it stands true in many other subjects too. So
I
a
mean,
balanced approach, like Imam Malik said, that look, he said that not every hadith is a sunnah, not every sunnah is a hadith. There will be hadith that will be false, and there will be certain things that will be accurate. It's safer to just, if you're in doubt, you just learn your Islam from fiqh. You don't need to read all these books of hadith. Nobody's asked anybody to read books of hadith. Nobody goes around reading archives on other things. So if you want to study archival data, you can do that. But then it's not surprising it will confuse people because it's just archives of historical data. It's not a storybook that you're going to read from cover to cover unless you're a student of that field. So I hope that sheds some light. It gives me it brings this thing to a closure, and I think we've kind of gone on quite a bit as well. But I really do appreciate you honestly bringing that question, because it was very, I was just discussing it just on Tuesday as well. So so it's good to discuss that.
I was looking forward to see of your position about you see all this talk you talked about Imam Malik saying that he trusts more the people of Medina or other standards. All of this is because we know we don't have standards. We don't. Chain doesn't mean anything. You know it. You know chain means nothing. If God is Allah is describing some people around the messenger of God.
Yeah.
Some are good, some are bad. You cannot
sure.
say,
And
you need
that's
to
a great question. What I say about this, and I said this on my, this was exactly what we covered in the Patreon meeting. It was that, look, what I said was that the chain Isnad project, okay, it was an outstanding, incredible human project. So it is human, but obviously it was what the Muslims, for example, accomplished with the Isnad. No other faith or religion has anything like that. So it is true, it is outstanding, but it's not superhuman. It's not. It's what, and I borrowed the term from Donald Winnicott in from the great psychologist and psychoanalyst, where he uses the term good enough. So it's not, where he's asked about mothering and parenting and all this, and is this good parenting or is this, and he just says it's good enough. So the Isnad project is that it's an amazing, it's a testimony of the human will. People dedicated their lives to it, and they lived and died producing something that has no parallel in any other faith or tradition that can match it. Is it a human project ultimately? Yes. Is it going to have shortcomings and mistakes? Yes. Is it going to, on occasions, be wrong? Yes. Is it going to be right on occasions? Yes. Is it good? Is it like because some people will say it's infallible, it could never make a mistake. I would borrow the term from Winnicott, and I would say it's good enough. So that's and I feel that's a moderate ground, that you still have your criteria of reason and the not clashing with the Quran. And I agree that Islam should always be Quran centric. And this was Imam Malik's approach. This was Abu Hanifa's approach, that Imam Abu Hanifa's, that the Quran, Islam orbits the Quran, and the Sunnah orbits the Quran. And that's Imam Malik, not the other way around. So sometimes people, maybe, with good intentions, and they end up accidentally switching the orbits, and it
Yeah,
shouldn't
but
do that.
brother,
So yeah,
the actual Sunni. Nobody believes that. Nobody believes that. What they're saying is, I
that
heard the
nobody
biggest
believes that the
Sunni.
sunnah is in the center. Yeah, nobody says that, but some people sometimes in practice shift it that way, that they try to make everything accommodate. So even the Quran will be fitted, even though you're right, nobody says it like that. Nobody says that. Or did you mean it the other way? They
Yeah,
don't say the oh you right,
yeah, the
okay,
other way.
yes.
I mean,
Oh,
nobody.
the other.
Yes, that's. I mean,
Oh,
I'm
you
not going to
mean the
hold you
other
up
way, as
too
in
long. I'm
right?
just looking forward.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to really have an exchange with you. I had
Well,
a
well,
lot of exchanges, a lot of topics
sure. You know, this has
with
gone
different
on.
people.
Yeah, and and what we'll do is we'll pick this up another time. But it was it was a beautiful opportunity to go
Yeah.
over this
I'll give you
topic.
one chance. If you had to ask one question to
Yeah.
make him doubt, if you had to ask one question to a Quran alone follower that you think will make him doubt, what is it?
You see, it's not, I don't have a question. It's not about me questioning them. What I would say to them is that our deen, you see, it's very common sense that when the Quran was being revealed, that the people would be asking the Prophet about just normal things, like just as, as we ask people around us today, and that was the Prophet. And I feel that you see, there is so much beauty in this theme that has been taught through the Sunnah. The fact that God is beautiful, inna Allah jamilun, yuhibbul jamal, loves beauty, is from the Sunnah. That's actually a hadith. There's nothing, I feel it's not, to me, these people are Muslims. I don't agree with people who try to chuck people out of Islam and stuff like this. It's just, and I understand as well their frustration, like why they are doing this sometimes. I understand where they're coming from, but and ironically, some people that I've spoken to, they're doing it from a love for the deen. They are, cutting off the entire sunnah out of a love to preserve the deen. It's just that it's a misplaced love. I admire their love, but they've misplaced it. It's not like you don't need to. My thoughts would just be that, sure, we have the faculties to be able to filter through stuff. Now, if you feel you don't have that faculty, and therefore you'd rather just lose it all as opposed to filtering through stuff, we're all on our own journey. May Allah, my prayers are with everyone. May Allah keep them happy. May Allah teach us all. We're all learning, we're all walking. Yeah, and people will. So yeah, just if anything, just that there is so much beauty, honestly, that we learn through the teachings as well of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Yeah,
That's all
alayhi
I would
salam. You
say.
see, I understand that. I understand that very, very. If you have standards, yes,
Sure,
I'm a jurist. I
sure,
studied law. I know the Prophet Muhammad. I know he
sure.
was a
But
he was
with this ultimate
he was
truth,
taking care of
with
business.
this ultimate truth, with this, we got to wrap this up. Okay, so I
Okay, okay.
absolute love
All
for
right.
you, but I've got to do this.
Love for
Okay,
you,
because
brother.
I'm getting
Thank you
very
so
late.
much. I'm looking
Right, take care
forward
of yourself.
really to really exchange with you. Assalamu alaikum.
Sure. I mean, you're more than welcome to go to my Patreon as well. If you want to have a,
Yeah,
obviously an off the air kind of chat, you're more than,
yeah,
welcome to hit me up there, and we'll kind of
inshallah.
do that. You take care. Inshallah, we'll
Yeah,
speak soon. People,
take care.
Assalamu alaikum. That was ultimate truth from the US. Some interesting discussions on hadith, sunnah, the historicity of the schisms in Islam, the voice of reason, its position in Islam, some of the madhab history, how Quran only is, in essence, a modern um, reaction to a modern problem, ironically, and also just seeing the historicity of certain hadith when they do stand true, and this whole description of, we don't need to feel that that we can't filter through stuff. And there is undeniably a lot of beauty and unquestionable, and in some just so much beauty in the teachings of the Sunnah that come to us. Guys, I'm wrapping this up. I'll just check. Or is there anything? Look, Allah, look at that. Allah, Malonzetta, you're doing it. Much love. Very informative discussion. Shukran, Amal. Right, Wissam. Yeah, Allah bless you, honestly. Hope your mother is doing well. Allah give us shifa, shower upon your patience. Shukran. Allah bless you, keep you forever smiling. I deeply appreciate your love and your du'as and your support with this super chat. But, Allah bless you. Shukran. And bless everyone. People are going through, one thing this made me even more aware is because those that are not aware, my mum's been diagnosed with stage 4 of bowel cancer, and it's kind of spread to other parts, the liver, and but one thing this has, and it is very, it's tough seeing people near and dear to you suffer. It's tough, and you understand why people who tortured people in the past, and even today, one method of torturing is making them just witness the torturing of other people dear to them. It's sometimes worse than being inflicted with that pain yourself, is to see it on someone else whilst in a state of helplessness. But one thing that this also opened up to me, I mean, it opened a few things, and I'll wrap up with this, is one, it showed me, honestly, because the more I spoke to certain people, so many people in their family, this has happened to someone. And just speaking to another friend today, he's speaking in his family, this person, they had cancer, another person, his mom had cancer, another person, his dad had cancer, another person, sister had cancer, and these people I was unaware of, that they were they had been through this. So many, this is why we forget everybody's fighting a difficult battle. And I think one thing, the other thing, and I want to end it on this on a more positive, you see, one thing it's done is, it's really like we try to, it's brought the family together in a way that other things couldn't have. And that's so unfortunate when we say it like that. But it's just, and I don't mean in a way that we had necessarily issues, but just people are lost in the rat race of life, and we're there, almost everybody's trying to be there every single day, all of our kids and everybody, all the siblings, everybody's kids, and it's such, it feels like so much barakah, because it feels, it's like Eid almost on a daily basis. And that in itself is priceless, because what is life fundamentally? It's just memories and experiences of moments that have passed. And so yeah, this weirdly, all ups and downs, even tragedies, they bring this kind of silver lining with them, if we can see it. And we got to just do what we can do, and we got to always try to, there's the hadith that always be positive, that that Prophet said, a person who believes, lillahi amrul mu'min, wow, the person who has faith, he's always loving it. The hadith says, why? He says, if something bad happens to them, sabr, they're patient, Allah's rewarding them. If something good happens, they're grateful. Lillahi amrul mu'min, kulluhu khair. It's just, they are immersed in goodness. Because, look, things are going to happen anyway. So, It's a bit like you have that movie. What was it? What was that movie? Don't Look Up or whatever. The one with Leonardo DiCaprio and asteroids coming. But in the end, where they're sitting around the table. Actually, there's another good example as well. What's that movie? The one, was it something Code or something about where you've got that? What's that guy's name? Gyllenhaal, but he goes back in time, and he's in this thing, and he's trying to stop this train from this terrorist attack or blowing up or something, but the point is, in these movies, in the end, they realize that, well, look, what's going to happen? These things, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. How about we face it smiling and laughing and in a positive, with positivity? Like, let us just lose ourselves in the moment of love and joy and gratitude to God. And what's going to happen is going to happen anyway. The earth, it's going to shrivel up with this asteroid, but let's, as they sit there, and let's just talk amongst ourselves and smile and laugh. And yeah, may Allah bless us all. Guys, have a great evening wherever you are. If you want to reach out to me, you know the drill. You can reach out to me on Instagram, YouTube. Follow my YouTube thing now. So YouTube, I think it's now got the handle, so I think it should be making some ways of making contact much easier. Subscribe, check out my other videos. If you want to be more involved, head over to patreon.com/MALM and become part of my Discord server, Mindscape. And we just chat on there, and we do have a group session as well once a month, although past month we've not and stuff, but we do have that. And if you want one-to-one perspective sessions, you want to discuss something in private, or you want to head over there. You can book that. And just Allah bless you all. Take very good care of yourselves. Wassalamu alaikum wa khuda hafiz.